What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves, physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago, we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique.
Help other people to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores Cannon has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT. Now you can learn her method by going directly to themoreshow.com/QHHT. And don't forget to mention the discount coupon More Talks. Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
My name is Ginette. I'm a medium and a channeler, and I have had NDE experience back in 2019, which really propelled my mediumship to take quite a leap into more channeling. So I had a lot of channeling that started around 2020 with the onset of the pandemic, actually. And I had these beautiful guides come to me. They're called the 3 Guides of the Light. Now, they showed themselves to me first as 3 kind of beings, outlines, like human-like outlines, but just kind of a shadow figure. And when they approached me, they were talking to me about some different things. And I said, oh, okay, so you're, 3 Guides of Light. And they said, well, let's actually be clear that we are not embodied as you would see it, but we are consciousness. We are light consciousness. And I was like, okay, but they're like, we're showing ourselves to you as 3 figures, so it makes sense to your mind. And so over the last few years now, I've been channeling them. They kind of come and go, but they are beautiful beings of consciousness that just bring in some really neat divine insights at different times through our growth and ascension. And one of the things that they did say early on, which I thought was really interesting, is that from the year 2020 to 2024, we would have 100 years worth of growth and ascension on our planet, condensed into a span of 4 years. And so we're starting to near the end of that right now. And if we look back at how much we've grown collectively as humanity on this planet in the last 4 years, it's quite significant, the amount of things that have been coming up. So channeling for me has been a really neat experience in surrendering to spirit, because again, before my my NDE, I was already working medium for about a decade, very used to those communications, had done probably 1,000 readings by then. And what I found with channeling was just like a deeper merge in consciousness. So it was me really having to step aside and allow them to come through. And I actually, one of the first times that they did come through or it was a different spirit that came through to show me that I could channel, was I was in a mediumship reading one time. And I guess apparently I wasn't getting across what the spirit wanted me to get across. And this is a spirit that I'd been very comfortable with already. I'd read for this person many times. And they said, can we just channel through you? And I remember thinking, okay, sure. And they're like, we'll show you how this works, but you just have to surrender. And so basically what it felt like for me, and continues to feel like when I channel, is I just kind of move my consciousness to the side slightly. I step slightly out, and spirit just does a tighter blend with my energy, versus mediumship is very kind of third party. And the messages move through me. And so it's like being so incredibly in the moment is, to me, how channeling feels. So that's a little bit about what has got me to this point. And I've been sharing these messages since on my podcast, on my YouTube platform. And it's been interesting to see the evolution of it.
Okay. So just remind us of your website. It is?
avalonspirit.com.
Okay. Why do you call it that?
Well, that actually stemmed from my near-death experience. I wrote about it in my book, so there's a much longer story to it. But there was a point when, nearing the actual experience, that my guides came in one time and they woke me up. And they said, you need to remember this. And I was like, okay. They said, what was to be Avalon is now Aurora. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, what was to be Avalon is now Aurora. You have to remember this. And essentially what it meant was I was on a path that was leading me to essentially Avalon, which is just another term for heaven, the other side, the afterlife. And the energy shifted to have me back on planet. And auroras have always symbolized like a change happening on Earth, a change in divine design. So what was to be Avalon was now Aurora. So there was a change coming. And so after my NDE, when I kind of made a deal with Spirit that I would really step up and do what I was meant to be doing, instead of, all my mediumship sessions, I was busy, I was booked up, but it was all word of mouth. And so it was after that experience that I decided to really stand up and share what I was getting. And so that's why I honored it by calling it Avalon Spirit, because it's really the spirit of Avalon, the other side, that is what I work with.
So when you had the near-death experience, is that when the three guys of the light came through? That's what you call them?
Those guides came through after. So they started to come through about 6 months after. They really made their presence known kind of at the beginning of the pandemic, actually.
All right. Do you think you needed a near-death experience to have them come through?
I don't think I would have needed it. I do think it definitely helped. I think there could have been other ways where my journey may have changed to allow them to come through, a deeper surrender, greater awakening. But I do know, after having landed with what I say is like my feet on the other side, and that being so vastly different when you're actually touched by that energy there, I think that was very significant in my ability to open up to them.
Okay, so what did the near-death experience actually do for you then? What did it change? Did it just stop you from doing readings anymore, giving your time doing one-to-ones, and move to some sort of different work? What was the biggest part of the shake-up for the near-death?
The biggest part for me, I think, was the access and the energy from the other side. When you touch that energy on the other side, that you can't shake it off and you can't ignore it. It changes you. It changes your frequency. There's a lot of people that come back who maybe aren't mediums or spiritual, and they come back with certain gifts or abilities. When you are conscious in that frequency, it raises your frequency, or it raises your reach. And so I noticed after my near-death experience, when I came back, I was able to more quickly access spirit or the higher realms. And I think that's just a piece of having been there consciously.
What was your near-death experience? I know you've talked about this on so many other shows, right? But just very briefly, what was your near-death experience?
Basically, it was during a routine surgery, and I when I was put under, I popped over onto the other side, and I had my grandmother there with me. And essentially, we landed upon this kind of barbecue picnic setting where I got to spend time with family and friends and those on the other side who I had known in this lifetime and before. And it was beautiful and so touching. And I felt like I spent hours and hours there. And then it was after that that I was brought to this other area, this place. I call it the room of the blueprints. And it was essentially where my guides rolled out on this big boardroom table type thing, this big white boardroom table, my life blueprints. And it was in that I had like a life review. And that was where I learned that in my experience, I say it's near death because I didn't die. I could see my life blueprint, and I had this iridescent line that was still pulsing on it, meaning I was still alive. But it was at that moment where they explained that I could stay in heaven in the other side if I wanted to. And it was simply a switch that would give me like a heart attack on the table. My body had been weakened enough that during the surgery, it would flatline. And I was so sure, though, that I wanted to come back. And so when I made that decision, I was able to look at the rest of my life in that blueprint and change out some different things. And I would only remember the first one very clearly. And they kind of looked like fuses. So the first one was this fuse of chronic health issues, because I always had chronic health issues. And I was replacing that with health. And then there would be several others. And I would imagine, based on your question before, that's where part of maybe the ability to channel or connect in faster came into play as well. I may have tweaked a couple different knobs or something in there to give myself a higher frequency. I don't know. But it was at that point where after I rearranged a couple things, they asked me one more time if I wanted to stay or come back. And I, of course, decided to come back. And it was really significant because the energy from that experience has stayed with me ever since. Like I said, you can't go there, experience it, and not come back changed in some form. And as much as it was beautiful to experience, it was also equally challenging to come back to Earth into the density that it is, the dense emotions, the dense experience. And at the same time, it was equally beautiful to come back with the knowledge that we carry on and how valuable this lifetime is. So it was this really interesting balance of kind of two polarities in coming back.
But when you was under the knife, then as far as the doctors were concerned, everything went hunky-dory. And you were fine, but to you woke up with this remembering of being in this place, and you call it a near death because you had the choice to get out of Dodge or come back, which is a different type of near death experience to other people. Each one's different, I guess. But did you come back because of guilt? Were you guilt ridden that you just hadn't said goodbye to people that you wanted to? Was that more the case really as well?
I came back because for two reasons. Obviously, my family and my kids, I wanted to be present.
Yeah, well, I wanted to bring them. Yeah, you didn't mention that before, so there was a part of you that actually was like, "Oh my God, I cannot leave them."
Yeah.
But if they were not in this, if they hadn't been there, and you were just running solo, do you think your decision to come back would have been different?
No, I don't think so. Because the other view that was really significant for me was when I was in that decision point, I could also see myself as my higher self. So there was me, and then there was also my higher self, which looked like me. But I could see my higher self's perspective of how much it valued this lifetime and how much our higher selves value lifetimes and how significant that is. And so the view of that, to give up on what I'd already accomplished and where I'd gotten myself to, would be like giving up right before you get keys to a new house or something like that.
Was life pretty good before having that operation? I mean, was this the best life you were living?
I mean, depending on the perspective, being bedridden and not able to walk far at risk of passing out, I wouldn't say it was my best life. But having two amazing children, that's an amazing gift right? In a family, that's understanding is an amazing gift. Being physically limited and getting sick all the time is not an amazing gift, but there's lessons. And it was the beauty in all of that. Like the higher self sees the beauty in everything, even in the hard times. And it was that totality of it that I was just in awe of, and how much it's revered.
But there must have been a part of you that actually wanted out.
Not on the other side, no, not at all. It never occurred to me.
I don't think people have near-death experiences unless there's other issues going on that are deeper. I think it's an out point. There's out points throughout this life, and it was a potential out point for you. So let's just be real, right?
I am being real.
Yeah, things weren't great. There's a lot of love in your life. There was still something that wasn't. There was a part of you that was, you know what, fuck this. Do you know what I mean? Why does it have to? I've got all this good stuff, but there's one thing that really it just grinds me down. There's always a pattern in the near-death stuff. I know that's true.
For that perspective, I could agree that being sick like I was not great. But if you're asking my experience on the other side and part of me wanting to stay, there was not I wanted to come back.
Because when you're actually given the choice to actually go, you're like, just no, I can't. I may have, not enjoyed everything about everything, right?
Yeah.
But actually, maybe I can do better.
Yeah. It was a pretty clear decision for me, for sure, to want to come back. Yeah. And it wasn't a guilt decision, and it wasn't a shame. It was more of an wonder.
No one's saying that. No. But I having had my own near-death experience, and wanting, and just, God, at that time, really not wanting to be here as well, to be honest with you. There was guilt of the way of leaving in that moment. Had I decided to go, because I know how it would have affected people that I left behind, right? But things weren't perfect, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have had it. But did it change my life amazingly to do different things in blah, 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 blah? No. It was just for that particular part of my life. But I don't think I carried any energy. But then I never had exactly the same experience as you did. Do you know what I mean?
As no one does, right? Like every near-death experience, I think, is so unique to the person, right? Like it's meant for that person in that time to make that juncture point decision.
But when I look back on it, though, and I think of how much love was in that moment, it just seems such a faded memory that I don't know if I always refer back to that when I'm going through something tough.
Did you have a clear moment of like being asked if you want to come back? Do you recall?
No, I just had the choice to go, or I think I was giving myself the choice to go or come back.
Yeah. And what pulled you back, would you say?
Guilt for the people that I was going to leave behind. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Completely.
Did you feel changed after your experience?
I did for a few days, but then everything just went back to normal.
Really?
When I look back at it, yeah, I mean, what did it really do? I don't know. I mean, how much do I think, how much was it a hallucination and everything else? I don't know. It felt amazing at the time. It felt like a form of like unconditional love that I've never felt before, right? I never have done since that. But no, I think I still got my arsehole side, right? And I still got my no. Right.
If you go back to that energy, do you ever sit in that energy again? No desire to?
No. No, I know it's there, but I think as I've gone on this journey and done all these interviews and stuff like that, to me, what's most important is just getting on with life. Yeah, and not have the distraction of like, well, am I in 4D, 3D, 5D? Well, does it matter? No. No, not for me, it doesn't. I think, when you've just got to survive, then you're in a different mindset completely.
That's fair.
And does life continue? Probably. But, you're still here to get on with this life.
Yeah. Did you see beings or anything on the other side?
What happens on the other side? You still got to get on with this life.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, you'd miss it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that get into this subject just want to just be over there, and not here.
Mm-hmm.
No, nothing like that. No.
Okay.
But that was my, I'm reference for it. But you had yours is very different. I mean, you went probably deeper, and probably, it sounds like you did touch and cross on the other side, where I only sort of got as far as the tunnel, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I know there was, you could just feel all the energy and things around you. There was all these voices, and but. So you spent what was some time on the other side. You come back, and it's all in the passing by of seconds, which would be on this plane, but for you it was some time. So, okay, so how did that change you then? Let's just get to that point. What was so different about you at that point?
So by the time, like when I came back, it changed in a couple different ways. So one of the things that was so significant in seeing my actual blueprint, my life blueprint of destiny points versus free will things, cycles that I'd gone through, was I realized how much we consciously choose certain destiny pieces in this lifetime, certain fate things, if you will, and then how much conscious choice once we're in the human body, how much that affects the cycles we go through. So when people are like, well, is it fate or is it destiny? Is it free will? It's a combination of the two. It's fate and destiny. Or sorry, it's free will and destiny. Our conscious choices as humans, like you said, being the human on this planet is so incredibly important. And if we do spend all our time wishing to be off planet somewhere else, we're missing the point of being incarnated, right? But we also had a hand in designing some of the key pieces in this lifetime to experience based as a soul. And so we can't just sit there and blame the higher realms or blame the other side in terms of us being punished, because we have a hand in both. And so it was this conscious choice piece that was really significant when I came back. Also, I realized the density, like I said, how dense 3D life is in terms of the emotions. Even the weighted feel of a body is so much denser. But at the same time, on the other side of that, the emotions that we have in humanity are also so incredibly beautiful. And the density of having a body and hugging somebody and touching somebody or feeling a texture. I remember the feeling of the blanket to me for days after was just so beautiful. The softness was amazing. So there's that side of it. But then there was also, it took me a little while. It took me probably about a year to really integrate myself back into being here. Because there was such a polarity difference between the other side and here that sometimes it was hard to have one foot in each or to kind of move between the two during readings and such. Like there's such a vast difference there. So there was definitely an integration point for me.
What was an important thing that you brought over from having that near-death experience? Like, was there something that stays with you? Maybe you've already mentioned it, but was there something that, something that you were told that really sticks with you? Or
yeah, for me, it's conscious choice in any situation. There's so many times that I have used that in some of the worst situations that I could think of that I'm in.
What does that mean, conscious choice?
Well, like in every moment, we have an opportunity to make a choice. And sometimes that we have a million opportunities and a million choices that we can choose from. And sometimes we're really limited, but we still have a choice in every moment. And that for me was really significant because I didn't feel powerless. So even in a moment where, I'm stuck in a rainstorm, say, I can choose to absolutely despise it and spiral down, or I can choose to accept and embrace it and do the best that I can in that moment. And I think sometimes we forget about that simple thing of conscious choice in any moment. And that goes from really, really hard moments. Like if something really dramatic or traumatic happens in that moment, or when we come to a point where we can think a little clearly, we can think, okay, I have a conscious choice I can make. Do I need to reach out and ask someone for help right now or not? Like that becomes our power point. And once you realize how much power you hold, I think we then get to really embody more wholeness here. Like we get to be more confident and more clear in the co-creation of the direction we're going. I think that's a huge, huge value.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think there's a lot of good in that. I also try to remind myself throughout my day sometimes. Don't always remember this, but sometimes when I'm just like, shit, which way am I going with my life? Where's it all going? What the fuck am I supposed to be doing? I'm 45. 15 years, I'm going to be that age. It's all not over, but where's it all going? And I have to remind myself that forget about the idea that we come back here. Forget about the idea of reincarnation, all that kind of stuff. Live this life as though it's the only one you're going to have. Just forget about some of this stuff that you've spent years being head deep in and, and everything else. Erase it. It actually isn't going to help you. It's an excuse to just not live your best life, maybe, right? I know I'm saying this, and there's me done all these talk shows on this subject. I'm anti some of this stuff right now that I've been promoting, right? But I'm not. I just see it differently. It's like, yes, it's there, but actually, you've got this one life. If life does not continue when we cross over, and this is all we have, well, some of the spiritual stuff, if it's not true, it's not a bad thing because, actually it's not a bad way to live your life. If it is true, that's fine as well.
Yeah.
But just live this life as though, it is the only one you've got. Now, you may disagree with me, that's fine, but that's just someone who's interviewed a few people and just coming up with a different perspective.
I think that's great though, because it's all on how people need to look at it to feel like they have a say in it. So if it is to view it as this is your only life, then make the most of it. You can also, well, for sure. I think also one of the ways that I like to look at it is the impact I can make in this lifetime. I mean, I obviously believe stuff carries on, otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I do. But when I saw the value from my higher self of how much it valued a single life, like how much this lifetime and everything I'd done already up until that point, how valued it was, from that perspective, made me have this awe for a single lifetime. And I believe that I've had many, many lifetimes, but it doesn't devalue this one. And so this one lifetime matters so much. So to just skate through it and wish we're only on the other side, we're missing the point. To move through it and not learn and grow from the things that happen and learn everything we can and believe, not believe, and run back and forth between the two. That is what living is and gaining the most from a lifetime experience. It's not about doing it perfectly, but experiencing it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think it's, it's important to stay grounded. I think it's important to, it's so easy to get so out there, isn't it? With this stuff, with this work. I think this work, it does help you to make sense of things that do not make sense sometimes. It can bring a lot of comfort to a lot of people. There is a lot of positivity in it. Like I say, even if none of it's true, I mean, it's not a bad way to live, right? It's not harmful. But I think a lot of what we think we understand about where we go to, what this is all about, it's only based on a tiny knowing of who we truly are. I mean, what it really is may not be nothing of what we think it was. And all these massive thought leaders with all these great massive views and everything else, and put them on a pedestal. They was all wrong. It was just we were stupid enough to go along with it because you know we they must be right. No, they weren't. No, it was bigger than that. Oh, it was even just different to that.
You know, and that's one thing that my guides are always saying too, over and over, is, and for everyone too, right, is find what resonates for you and follow that. Right? Because all roads are going to lead back to, they always show me like all these water slides lead back to the main pool, whichever that is, whether it's traditional religion, whether it's Buddhist principles, whether it's like whatever it is, your journey, whatever knowledge you need to gain, the roads are going to lead back to the main pool. And so honoring your truth and where you're at in that moment is what is so valuable. Right? And so I think if people are questioning different thought leaders, question it. Right? Question it. Even things that I say, I often say to people, like, take it with a grain of salt, measure it against your truth, and that's what matters. Because it's just me sharing my piece, and, you know, as with other people. So I always think it's a great idea that people honor what they get out of something in the moment. And if it changes, it changes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So moving on with your story, of course. So at some point when you've gone through this shift and you're on your journey, the three guides of light, they show up, or an energy shows up, and you've chosen a name for it, which is okay. And actually they're not the three guides of light, but just like it's not Abraham Hicks, just like it's not Bashar, you know, these are just names that we give to something that's something that's okay with us giving it a name. You're able to bring through this wiser aspect of consciousness that's a part of you're part of it. But I like the three guides of light. It's a cool name. If you want to just talk us through that quickly, was it, you know?
I was actually just getting ready in the washroom one morning and closed my eyes for a moment. Okay, so backtrack here. Spirit will often come to me when I'm busy doing my hair or something really mundane and repetitive, washing dishes, something like that. So they came to me while I was doing that, and I closed my eyes, and that's often when they'll just flash something. And again, like I said, I saw these three outlined figures and this massive bright light behind them, like bright light, like someone's shining a flashlight on me. And so I was like, oh, hello, you know, who are you? What's going on? And that's when they explained to me, they're like, you know, we are not embodied beings, but we're just showing you ourselves like this. So you understand we're like a group of consciousness, but we are light. And I was like, well, tell me about that. And they're like, well, we are not in our state of evolution where we need to be embodied. We are consciousness that is found in light. So I asked them, you mean like sunlight? And they're like, if you want to see it that way, yes, but it's not limited to that. It's just a really high frequency consciousness. And so, the three guides of the light just kind of stuck at that point. It seemed like the clearest reference. And it's funny because I have sometimes had spirit guides who I'm like, what's your name? And they're like, well, what would you like to call us? Because, you know, whatever. So it's kind of funny. But so they just started coming in and sharing information. And that's what I found certain spirit guides of mine have done over time so that I can get to know them, is they'll start to share information with me, bits of info that then I can find validity to, and so on, and then we build a relationship, that kind of thing. So they've been a consistent part for almost 4 years now.
So just remind us of your website. It is
avalonspirit.com.
Okay. So when people go there, then you no longer now do one-to-one sessions. So people can't come to you for a psychic medium reading. They can't even come to you for a channeling reading. That's not what you do. But you do live session, live videos, live interactive sessions where people can ask questions there, and you will answer them if depending how busy that particular live session is, right?
I share a lot of the channeling and messages I do on my YouTube channel, which is GinetteByro.medium. There's a lot of stuff on there, channeled messages. And I also share oftentimes stuff that comes through from them in a cosmic consciousness circle that I do once a month. That one is a paid for evening event, but everything on YouTube and most of my content is on YouTube is free. It's there to share. Yeah.
And are you doing courses as well? So just tell us a bit about the courses that you do or that you offer.
Yeah, so I teach a Lightworker Mentorship level 1 and 2, which is basically helping people to open to their gifts, their own ability to communicate with spirit, what it feels like, what it can look like, what it can sound like, how to open to that so that they can build their own direct communication. I think everybody has the ability in some form. And can definitely learn the skills. So I have a live version of that where they interact with me. And then I have an online one if they prefer that modality. So I do that. And then people can also, though, on Avalon Spirit, connect with other mediums that I have that have been vetted by me. Very close personal friends, colleagues that are talented. So if they are looking for a qualified medium, astrologer, you name it, that's all in Avalon Spirit as well.
And your book as well, just very briefly, just tell us about your book, how that came about, when it came about.
Yeah, so my book it started about 4 days after my near-death experience. So it's all about kind of my life leading up to that, and then the experience, as well as some information about spirit and how it works. And so I basically, once I, was out of surgery, had no more pain meds in my body, and the whole memory of everything happened, I just started writing. And the book is called Avalon to Aurora, a medium's near-death experience. So I just shared my story there.
Right now, what is the main message of the three guys of the light? What are they trying to get across, do you think, for the people that want to listen?
Yeah. Well, do you want me to just see if they're available to channel right now?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And then very, very quickly as well. Well, actually, just tell the audience as you channel, just that process of how you connect and how leading up to them coming through as well.
Sure. Okay. So when I'm doing mediumship, that is me being a third party person who's seeing, hearing, or feeling something. I interpret it and I share it. So I'm like the interpreter. That's mediumship. Channeling is where I kind of move slightly more out of the way and it comes more directly through me so that I'm hearing it for the first time as you are. And there's nothing scary or creepy about channeling. It's just a tighter merge of energy is all it is, basically. If you kind of think of like, when you meet two twins who can finish each other's sentences because they are so cohesive in their energies, it's sort of like that. And so all I do is I tune in and they just come forward and I share what it is, whether it's, I don't know, one sentence or a couple paragraphs or whatever it may be. So,
all right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to close my eyes for a moment and first of all, see if they're here and then I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you.
We are the three guides of the light, and we are grateful to come through and share a message with you all. Many of you have been growing and ascending at a rapid rate. We see you. Those of the higher realms honor and see you along your journey. Some of your steps may feel sure, and some of them feel unsteady. Each one is bringing you towards your end goal, towards the goal of this lifetime. We honor you in every one of those steps, knowing that ascension is not easy. All souls, as they grow and evolve, move through different rates of ascension, different embodiments, different experiences, some having lifetimes that are of light and some that are of dark, knowing that all will eventually bring you back home. Each time you journey in a lifetime, you take on karmas, experiences, desires for soul growth. These desires help you grow and expand, for the wisdom gained in a lifetime is more than you can imagine. Even in moments where you struggle and you feel you may be abandoned, you are not. Your soul is always growing and expanding in every moment. You are always being guided. You are never alone. It is the consciousness that feels it is alone, the human consciousness, the one that feels separate from all things. This being an experience based on your being embodied as a human. Right now, humanity is moving into consciousness where they recognize they are connected to all things. That the ether between all particles moves between them and all things, from trees to rivers, stones, human to human, all is connected. Therefore, when you thrive, the ripples that come from you help others thrive. There is always a web of connectedness. You are never, ever alone. We wish to bring you this message so you feel inspired and you feel supported, even in times where it feels like perhaps your journey is in the dark. You are always in the light.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's just have a look at, we've got a few different areas here, but let's just have a look at manifestation. Let's just go there, right? What is your key takeaway when it comes to manifesting the life that we want? Maybe we put money to one side for a minute and actually go a bit deeper than that and actually, go behind the money, right? Yes, what is your sort of, in a very broad sense, your takeaway on
Manifesting? So, like energy attracts like energy. And so one big key in manifesting is being in the energy of it, visualizing it. If we take it into a very 3D thing, think of sports psychology, right? When you are about to hit the field, say in a football game, and you spend time visualizing on the field where you want to run, what you want it to look like, what the touchdown can look like, and then you go into feeling what it would feel like and embodying what it's like, you already have that energy then running through you. And so the idea with manifestation is sitting in essentially every chakra in the energy of alignment that you wish. So the feel, the I am, the I create, the I embody, all of that helps in your manifestation. So that's what we can do on this side. As well, what we can do is clear out blocks, heal traumas that may be limiting that. But then we also have to leave space for the universe to bring in those manifestations, and sometimes in ways that we couldn't have imagined. Because when we too tightly control exactly what it is going to be, we then can get in the way of how it is delivered. So to me, manifestation is a really delicate balance of co-creation. I kind of visualize it like I'm in the driver's seat and the universe is my co-pilot, and we're kind of talking back and forth to get to where we want to go.
Yeah, but sometimes it can seem, though, I suppose, for some of us, that it's not going in the direction that makes any sense. And maybe that's also to do with as well, we don't have a clue what we really want to do. I mean, there's nothing that pulls us for some people.
It could be. And it could also be sometimes the universe rerouting you. Because there are some times I know in my past where I have wanted this thing so badly, like all of my energy is being put in wanting to do this. And then it's only until, say, years later, in retrospect, I realize how the universe was rerouting me, because then knowing what I know at that point, that was not a good decision. That was not in my best interest, right? So sometimes we have to recognize, like, are we being rerouted maybe for something more? But I think also, too, sometimes when we don't know what we're doing or what we want, it's hard to manifest, because how do you manifest what you don't know you want?
And how do we get to a state where we don't know what we want as well? How do we end up there? How did nothing become? How did everything that's available on this planet become so unfulfilling?
That's very true. I think at that point, there has to be, in my opinion at least, a surrender to all the things that are not working, and kind of like a starting from scratch again, but based on what is valuable to you. And in terms of how do you wish to feel inside, and what does that look like? And so it's not yet a tangible thing, but it's more a feel thing. And then everything grows from there. And even in the tiniest baby steps, and I've done this before, is when I have felt I've hit like a rock bottom and I'm like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, whatever. It's like, how do I want to feel? Well, I want to feel this way. What in this very moment can I do to help me feel that way? And maybe it is just making a healthy breakfast. That's it. Smallest step. But what I did is I answered my desire with an action that then brought energy back in to meet that desire. And the more that you do that for you, the greater the field of energy you create for the universe to then bring in bigger things to answer that desire.
Moving this forward then, and thank you for that. So we talk about, and many people talk about this as well. I mean, when I say we, I mean like the larger voices out there in a sense about the 3D to 5D. I've just got to mention it because I think it just becomes so confusing for people. Anyone that's in this reality, what reality are we all in right now? What are we? Is this 5D?
That's a great question. I really think it depends on your perspective. And I say that because there are some days where I am, say, vibing lower and I'm very much rooted in a 3D reality. And there's other days where I feel my vibes are higher. I'm more connected in. I'm more in my flow state. And I'm feeling very much I'm vibing from a 5D reality. So if I'm dealing with a lot of baggage, I'm going to be pulled down more into 3D reality. But that doesn't mean from that 3D reality, I can't have certain aspects of my life being viewed from a 5D reality because they're all happening at the same time.
Right, so it's a shared reality, but it's maybe it's like that. What's that saying where if you was in a skyscraper, if you went to the higher view, the higher floors, you're going to have a different perspective on the view. The lower floors are going to have another perspective and a different take on the view. So it's the same shared reality, but it's a different view perspective. It's a different floor, a different does that make sense?
Absolutely it does. And that's how we're living our lives. Like that's the thing that people need to recognize, and why the value of what your truth is and how you resonate with that is what matters, is because that dictates your reality. That dictates your 3D vibe reality or your 5D vibe reality within any situation. Right? Like our conscious choice in that moment can shift us into a higher or a lower frequency in how we choose to deal with it.
So we're all going to be able to see we all can watch the same shared news, but it's how, or the same shared issues on this planet, but it's how we choose to view them, maybe, and how we let it affect us. Yeah. Yes. Okay. What we focus on. Yeah. Am I going to be obsessive and drive myself crazy, or or look at it from a different perspective? Yeah. Or maybe not look at the view as such. We put the blinds down, right?
Well, that's true. Or even like just turn around and see what else is there, because you're only seeing one side, right? Like, because on one side you may see that ocean temperatures are rising and coral reefs are dying, right? But if you turn around, you may see, oh, but look, this company just started this initiative, and oh, this company has been cleaning out, how many millions of pounds of plastic over the last year in the ocean, right? And oh, this reef, now that it's been protected the last 3 years, is starting to come back. So again, like, it's all of it. It's not just one or the other. And your conscious choice in that gives you more of the control of your reality, so to speak.
Yeah. So if we feel that our life's not in our control, and I believe this energy is in the background talking through, am I right that there's this energy called the three guides of light that's in that I'm sort of interacting with here?
The three guides?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, do you mean just in what we were talking about, or during the channel?
Well, just everything that we've since you've been brought through, then I'm speaking to that energy more than the conscious host, in a sense.
Well, right now you're speaking to me.
Okay.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
I'm channeling, they're coming through more. I mean, they're always near, and can definitely share insights.
When I'm asking a question, is it shared between you all? I mean,
I can ask them for sure.
I know I'm speaking to yourself there, but I don't know if they're coming through a little bit in the answer, or
no. I can bring them. I mean, usually when I'm talking and spirits coming through, I'll tell you. I'll say like, okay, so what I'm actually seeing is this, or what I'm getting from them is that.
So just focusing as well with the three guys of light that are in the background with you right now. Let's just get them to bring through some answers as well. I think they would say that the times we live in right now, this is a time of acceleration where we're being pushed. I mean, you mentioned at the beginning of the interview that they had told you that these times are we're like living so many years in 1 year right now of acceleration. But if they want to come through and answer that question, what would they agree that we're being pushed right now? And that's why some of us feel so.
Yeah, absolutely. So what they're doing, they're showing me right now the graph. Okay, so I'm seeing this kind of graph, and they're saying the speed and the trajectory that humanity is higher than normal. It's a grind. It is a grind for humanity to be moving at the pace that we are, not only just in what we see, say in the media or like world revelations and things, but even individually with the healing that's going on, they're showing me. So the amount that we're having to meet our triggers, our traumas, our healing, the collective healing, and then the breakdown of infrastructures, all of that is happening all at the same time. So it's not like we're just seeing it on the TV screen, but we're safe at home. We're also going through such change energetically. And then they're also telling me that we're also changing. They're calling it the biological hum of our bodies. So essentially our frequencies are changing, which make our bodies change. And they're also saying that that's why so many people are becoming so much more sensitive to foods, to substances, to even light frequency is, accelerating people's healing and stuff. So we're becoming much more sensitive, and that's a good thing. But the speed in which we're doing it is such a high, fast climb. It's very overwhelming to the human person.
Right. Okay. And what do they see in the sense of what do they show you? If I was to say, like, what about future conflicts in this world? What about the warring ideas of some people that China is going to take on Taiwan, and this will lead to a much larger conflict, and what the potentials of that could mean for us all. What do they say about geopolitics, or where we're heading?
Yeah, okay. So they're showing me that if we look now like a stock market, you know how in a single day, the stock market can go up and down several times. So to watch it every moment, you're just going to freak out and stress yourself out. That is the potentials of different catastrophes, if you will, or different things throughout a given time period. So whether we see it as a day or a month, they're showing it to me in like almost quantum time, which is not linear. It's just potentialities. And these potentialities are constantly in movement. And so for them to give the highest probability right now, they can't, because it is constantly able to change based on free will on our planet. So what they've been doing, and those in the higher realms have been doing a lot, is trying to encourage or guide those in positions of power to choose a different way, which is what a lot of the higher realms are doing. And the more that, us regular humans not in those positions of power are raising our consciousness, it adds to a collective pool of possibility for those in positions of power to pull from that greater moral ground, maybe, if I could call it that. I don't know, better collective thinking to make the better decisions. And so they're constantly watching these potentials. They're now showing it to me flipping like on a screen of like 30%, 60, 80, 60, 80, 70, 30. Like it's moving all the time. And so they're saying in one way, it's a beautiful thing because it's not set in stone. And that's the beautiful thing about free will. At the same time, that's the most challenging thing about free will. This is not set in stone. So we have to be continually moving.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting about their analogy and what they had to say there about how they're, trying to raise people's okay, call it the word vibration, or, more of a global vibrational shift, I guess, where people are coming from a different space of, conflict is not always the way forward. Did they forget about the Ukraine, or I guess we've got a free will, haven't we? So, if two countries are going to go at it, no matter how much they're going to raise the vibration, crazy will do what crazy does. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
unfortunately,
that's not to say that they're not trying to work with energies and shift that.
Absolutely.
And it's not just this group.
It's the whole higher, it's all those in the higher realms.
Yeah.
We have like so much help right now. And again, depending on perspective, it may feel like we don't. Depending on perspective, it may feel like we do. What I get from them, though, in the pictures they show me and how they explain it, is we have so much help on our planet, and the speed at which we are as a collective opening our minds, if we even just use that terminology, like opening our minds to something more. Speed at which we're doing that is allowing them to come in more and more and more to bring in new initiatives, new ideas, new ways of thought.
Yet there is a large pool of the population that just go to work and never think about these things, don't even, well, they're just getting on with their life, and these things will never pass them. And yeah, I mean, it just doesn't matter to a great majority.
But there's
and that's okay as well.
That is, yeah, and that is because that's what they're living like. That again, they're doing their thing. It's not better or worse. It is, but more and more people are waking up to thinking bigger, and that doesn't even mean it has to be spiritual. It just means like opening up their heart, essentially, for lack of sounding cheesy, opening up their heart and becoming more kind and compassionate to people, to animals, to whatever. Those actions have ripples within what we would consider higher realms, spiritual frequency, whatever word you want to use. Any action where we open up, where we choose to heal something, where we choose a different way than responding in anger or shutting down, we are changing frequencies, which allow for more of humanity to awaken. Because we are moving from a global level of consciousness into a galactic level of consciousness, where we are learning that what we do to our planet also has ripple effects within the solar system, within different galaxies. And in the most basic form, we can't go blowing up our planet without recognizing that it's going to have a ripple effect, and a not good one, in the galaxies. And therefore, if we go to the other idea of just mathematically speaking, the likelihood of us being the only inhabited planet in all the billions of planets that there are is a little bit narrow-minded, in my opinion, to think we're the only inhabited planet with life. So if we go with that idea, what we do to this planet does ripple out and affect other planets. Therefore, we have other beings, other higher level ETs, if you will, that are invested in having Earth not blow itself up and having humans ascend and grow into a galactic level of awareness.
What do you think your guys would say or do? Do you feel their energy coming from them? Is that, if I say this, is that, well, disclosure is not going to be, yes, here's the bodies, here's the craft bits and pieces, we lied about it all, but actually disclosure is more, it's very subtle, it's a long way off. If disclosure was going to happen, we would be in a more evolved place for it to happen. I mean, the whistleblowers that they've got coming on these congressional hearings, when you look at their background, it's not good. It's not good. I don't think they're the people that they say they are. And, but it's the best we've got, which is rubbish. So really, what changes in 10 years? What if it was just a subtle change? What do the guys say to what I'm saying? It's just a very subtle change. Just to have the conversation out there is the subtle change. These people aren't the answer.
Well, what they're showing me and what they've been continuing to show me is that we are stepping into this era of galactic level communication. So more people will be able to either through spirit guides, either see or channel interdimensional beings. More people are going to be talking about their experiences with it. And also, I think to paint every whistleblower with a brush of, mental health issues, I don't think we can do, because we don't know that. To say that they are all mentally well, we don't know that either.
Well, when you do the background checks, when you do the background checks, they don't pass.
I think there are a lot of valuable people that are sharing information on ETs, though. And again, that is timely for what is coming out now. But I will say that regardless, people need to use their own discernment of who they do feel is valuable as a resource and who is not. Right? And that should resonate.
It's difficult when you've got people that you think you should be trusting that have just have other intentions for why they're doing what they're doing, which is a shame.
Fair. That's the hard thing about the planet, right? Is having that such polarity of light and dark on our planet makes discernment really, really important. Right? Discerning what people think is true, and to always know exactly what is true, I don't know. Like that's a journey in itself.
I think it was in the Seth books. It talked about even Seth did say that that or Seth 2 or Seth 1 just didn't want to really put much emphasis on the UFO stuff, because just our basic issues, of us just trying to get through life and understand, what we're capable of and who we are. Wasn't being met. So it just didn't want to go down the road of the UFO stuff, because it was just like mental masturbation. Do you know what I mean? Just to get as a way to just divert to something that really what about the issues that you need to work on. I don't know what you guys would say about what I'm saying.
So in response to that, they're showing me again that idea of like all roads lead to that pool home. So whether someone has to take a journey deep into discovering ETs, maybe whatever their journey is, that's their journey to find their way to what resonates as their truth, their soul, their purpose, their whatever that is. Others, it may have nothing to do with ETs, and their journey is solely, say, Buddhist, just for lack of a better example. And somebody else's might be atheist, where they want nothing to do with it. They just want 3D life. All of those are supported. So essentially, it doesn't matter, is what they're getting at. In the big picture, it doesn't matter. What matters is what matters to you specifically.
Well, you can tell them that's not the answer I was looking for, but that's fine. Yeah.
Fair.
No, great answer. I'm joking. That's interesting. Probably, I could totally resonate with that answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. But then again, what is the ultimate goal behind any of that then? What do they say? What's their answer to? I mean, okay, so we're all on different courses to get somewhere, but where are we going?
So that's the great question. And I've asked them, I'm like, what exactly is the end point? And they don't give me the answer of the end point, because I don't have a word to explain that. What I can explain is the point in the right now is for you, or whoever's listening, right? Like, I'm just going to say you, is to honor your soul in this lifetime. Like you said in the beginning, like this lifetime, what matters to you in this lifetime? Why does it matter? And what do you want to do about it? For you. Because that's what matters. You're having a soul experience here on this planet for a reason. And what you do with it is what matters. So if you are big into ET disclosure, then that matters. If you're big into cancer research, then that matters. If you're big into being the best parent you can be, then that matters. And if you are living a very like singular life where you're living off the land by yourself, that matters. Like, as long as you're resonating with what you're doing, that matters.
Yeah, it's so right. Yeah, great, isn't it? I mean, yeah, beautiful. I mean, that's nice. There's that deeper part of me, that deeper seeker, that's like, what's below or what's above all that, though?
So what I can say to that is the soul desires to experience itself, right? And so if I go back to that experience with my blueprint, the things that were in my blueprint, those fuses I talked about, were specific things my soul wanted to take on in this lifetime. And one of them was learning to surrender through chronic illness. And although that's not a fun human journey, I learned so much about surrendering, about asking for help, about not being able to do everything myself, which is something I like to do, is, oh, I'll do it myself. I learned really valuable lessons in the experience of being ill. And so the soul, when we're having a human experience, a human lifetime, we're desiring to gain experience, because experience is what gives us the soul wisdom. So that's what we're doing in the right now. And when we know that and we recognize that and we take the most we can out of all things, then we're really rolling in that energy of flow. Versus if we're pushing that all aside, we're missing opportunities for soul growth. Even in the hard stuff, especially in the hard stuff. Like, that's really where we learn so much more, is in the hard stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's so many good little things I want to clip out of this. And yeah, there is. So any final message from them?
Okay, so they're basically showing me this bubble, almost like if you get to get inside a bubble, right? And they're saying one of the things we need to do is to not be in such a rush all the time, where we are so much in a rush of trying to figure everything out or understand exactly what we're doing. But some of the best growth sometimes happens when we feel we don't know what we're doing, because in that moment we're standing on the cusp or on the precipice of something entirely new, because it's not known. And there's a power in that moment of not knowing. Like, that not knowing is, they're showing me, I feel like I'm about to tip off a cliff. You know, that moment when you're just about to hit the free fall, you're just about to hit momentum. That's that moment of not knowing. And sometimes that can be the most powerful point. So for many of you that are feeling you're in that point, and I've been there many times before, and we'll be back there again in different points, there's a value in that tipping point.
Okay. Well, that's powerful. That's another clip. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just remind us of your website just one more time for the podcast.
Yeah, it's avalonspirit.com.
Great. Well, this has been interesting. And life's not a straight road, and it's sometimes not so easy neither. But I think if people could just, listen back to some of the stuff you said, I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. A lot of good stuff.
Wonderful.
So,
Wonderful.
Just thank you very, very much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.